Hey everybody again, this is Romleys at Romleys on Letterboxd and at Rob the Movie Buff on Twitter, and I'm back to review a couple of movies, the newest take on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a new horror film from A24. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is directed by Jeff Rowe and is written by Rowe and four other writers, Evan Goldberg, Dan Hernandez, Benji Samit, and Seth Rogen, and there was actually an intro video by him before the start of the movie. I saw it at an early screening on Saturday, and the story goes back to the roots of the Turtles as teenagers and voiced by teenage actors. Donatello, voiced by Micah Abbey, Michelangelo, Shannon Brown, Leonardo, Nicholas Canto, and Raphael Brady Noon, with their origin and development with a mutant rat, Splinter, voiced by Jackie Chan, revealed in this movie. And this movie was able to show so many creative sequences, such as an early raid scene by the Techno Cosmic Research Institute, TCRI, on the scientist who created the mutant formula, Baxter Stockman, voiced by Giancarlo Esposito, a heist scene that includes some horror elements, and fun montage of the Turtles taking on gangsters and mobsters who have helped the antagonist of the film, Superfly, voiced by Ice Cube, get technology to create mutant mayhem in New York City. Probably the most impressive thing, however, is just how much of the story was able to evoke similar feelings and themes to past great comic book films, the Raimi Spider-Man films, the early X-Men films, but in a new way that never felt cheap and it felt totally authentic. For example, New York City and Brooklyn were essentially a character in the story with how grimy and mutant invested it was. And Superfly was a villain that was incredibly ruthless and yet relatable in his plight. Both he and the Turtles have gotten the worst treatment by humans and from humans, and I've always felt like they don't belong. While the Turtles want to be accepted and coexist with the humans, though, Splinter believes they will never be accepted, and Superfly is convinced the only way to be accepted is to become the dominant species. The teenage tortoises deal with all this and having to go through the adolescent experience in a way that is both enjoyable, then dark and grounded when needing to be at the most important times. The story is adjusted for the social media age, with the Turtles being able to experience how life is from a distance, but never quite getting that acceptance or what they want from the world. But their best chance to get it comes from meeting and helping a high school student interested in journalism, April O'Neil, voiced by Ayo Edebari, who agrees to help get the word out that they are heroes and not a threat to humans. In exchange, April is following them on their mission to find out information on robberies for TCRI technology and document it as part of a news package. One of the funnier aspects is Leonardo crushing very hard for April O'Neil, along with all the pop culture and viral references, and they feel natural and they don't feel overly forced. The voice cast is really phenomenal, with each of the Turtles providing a young, exuberant energy, and apparently they were all in the recording booth together. Normally you would have them off separate, but having them as a group together actually added to the chemistry they all had. And then Jackie Chan as the elder statesman and martial artist teaching them is very fun. Ice Cube is a very cool villain who, when he finds people uncool, just turns on a dime and becomes super intimidating, though he has members of his crew that are more fun-loving and provide great voice work as well. Seth Rogen as Bebop, a mutant warhog, John Cena as Rocksteady, a mutant rhinoceros, and Paul Rudd as Mondo Gecko, a seemingly friendly gecko throughout the movie. One of my favorite composer duos, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, do the musical score, and they bring industrial music to the comic book genre here, when they normally do a lot of David Fincher films, Gone Girl, Social Network, although they do a great job on the Watchmen soundtrack, the HBO TV show Watchmen soundtrack, and that was in the comic book vein. But overall, this was a really well done kids film with a great visual style, more sketch artistry than 3D animation, and so much creativity. I only have minor complaints. I did feel sometimes there could have been a tad more emphasis on the TCRI point of view, although they tease enough about them to be excited for future entries. There's also some of the comedy that doesn't quite land great, and gets repeated a bit, but I never felt bored, and I always felt the characters were challenged and never given easy route to succeed. So this was a very good movie. Right now, 8 to 8.5 out of 10, 4 out of 5, currently on Letterboxd. Next, we go to Talk to Me, a horror film directed by the brother duo of Danny and Michael Filippo, most famous as Australian YouTubers who've made videos featuring a fictitious, crazy version of Ronald McDonald and live-action horror comedy videos. Danny and Bill Heinzman wrote the script based on a concept by Daley Pearson, essentially involving possession through the viral lens, a mysterious severed hand that allows the one who grabs it a chance to meet these spirits by saying, "Talk to me," and then uttering the phrase, "Let me in," where the possessed person has 90 seconds to speak to the spirit before someone blows out a candle, and any time longer risks the possessed person being haunted by visions. This movie had an incredible, elaborate, and detailed one-take sequence to just start out the movie that immediately showed the possession and how it could affect someone and the viral video element of the story, but also left enough of the mystery to keep it intriguing throughout, and it was just an easy way to get invested in the story. The main character in the story is Mia, played by Sophie Wilde, a high school student who has been without her mother for 2 years, has been unable to fully process her suicide, and is closed off to her father Max, played by Marcus Johnson. But she is able to have some connection with her best friend Jade, played by Alexander Jensen, and her brother Riley Joe Bird, with their mother, Miranda Otto, treating her as one of her own kids. The mother's name is Sue, played by Miranda Otto. However, when Mia makes her attraction to Jane's boyfriend Daniel known and tries the viral possession at a party, she becomes obsessed with trying to reach out to her mother through possession, can no longer differentiate truth from reality. Visually, this movie does an incredible job of sucking you in as an audience member and putting you into the point of view of people seeing a possession with great camera, editing, practical effects, such as darkened eyes and noise, and acting choices that make every one of these scenes uncomfortable and tense. There is grotesque imagery, but it's used sparingly and smartly, and it pays off throughout the film incredibly well. Wilde has a lot to carry as Mia, showing her pain and solemnness in quiet moments, to then her emotional and devastating spiral, and performs all these incredibly well. The rest of the cast is great as well, and it was cool seeing Miranda Otto in something, as the last big thing I remember her in was as Eowyn in Lord of the Rings, and the ups and downs of her relationship with Mia is a great element to the movie. I also really enjoyed how the filmmakers used the contrast of Mia only really able to connect with the possession world and talking to the spirit, and never really with her father, and how it leads to her to make some bad choices. And I also liked how well this horror movie was done from several aspects, and it goes in different directions I did not expect in great ways, so trying not to say too much more about it. However, there are a few things that, in a few moments, that I do feel real-world-wise were a little odd, such as how often or not a hospital room was watched, and police and authorities never really connecting the dots as far as seeing these things happen online. But then again, there are a lot of fake possession videos out there, so they don't take everyone seriously. So maybe I'm nitpicking a bit, but overall, another 8 out of 10 movie, one of the better horror film outputs of the year, and 4 to 5 on Letterboxd. And thanks for listening, and let me know in the comments what you thought of these movies. If you had a chance to see them and you're weekend at the movies, thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.